Hi, all. This is Jan of the Jan Files. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit that subscribe button. This is going to be a short one. I know I say that sometimes and it's never short, but this one really should be short. I'm not going to pontificate too much. But I do have to say, after every time I go through this stuff and go back and refer to the books about what happened to these girls, it's like I feel filthy. It's horrible. And it's horrible that there are so many people lying about this. So let's just first of all start out with Ghislaine Maxwell and her testimony. There's some things in her testimony about the evidence, right? One of the things is that she never saw cameras that were, other than normal cameras watching the front door, the back door, that kind of thing. That's utter nonsense. And the evidence shows that it's utter nonsense. And the other part of this is that there's this idea that there's this list that exists, right? And it may be because Bondi said there was a list, but whatever. I don't know who started the whole thing about a list of logs, in terms of there are lists for who went on his airplane. I gather there were lists who was down in his island. So there are those kinds of lists. But this idea that he had a list of all the guys that he gave these girls to is ridiculous. What there is loads and loads of hard evidence in addition to witness testimony. And so, for anybody to look at what Ghislaine Maxwell testified to in July 24th and 25th and think that that is, Donald Trump is innocent or anybody else is innocent, because basically in that testimony, she said she never saw anything bad, which is ridiculous, first of all, on the face of it. Jeffrey Epstein, basically, in the very first trial he had, admitted, to doing wrong. So it's not, and that was back in 2007, 2008. She was still in his sphere. The idea that somehow she wasn't around him, she may not have been his lover anymore, but she was absolutely part of his retinue. So, let's just talk. So let's go back to the evidence, okay? There, like I said, it's very highly unlikely that there's this list sitting around, okay? What there is loads of evidence, such as the Southern District of New York, who went after Jeffrey Epstein, and that was the time when he, before the trial, he was offed in his cell, or he died, whatever, suicide. I don't think I know anybody who believes that, but whatever. That case and was the beginning of people really taking this seriously. And that case itself came about because of this woman. Her reporting, Julie K. Brown, okay? Not because the DOJ did any homework, or not because the DOJ thought to look in the past at the Palm Beach debacle, okay? But because this woman was the woman who said, hey, this is the story, and people started paying attention. So he died, so that trial's closed down. But then we have Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell, in the discovery process, the Southern District of New York turned over 2 million documents to the defense. 2 million. Okay? Just keep that in mind. The other thing that she said in her testimony, which was full of shit, was that she never saw any hidden cameras, right? That she only saw cameras that were, normal cameras that were going to look at the front door, or the back door, or, whatever, ports of entry, so to speak. And in the Palm Beach Manson case in 2005, they found multiple hidden cameras. Though they expected to find computers and video files, they were missing. In other words, Epstein was tipped off before the search, which is not surprising given the debacle of that investigation. So, already, that was in her testimony. She never saw, there were no hidden bullshit. Now, I'm just going to go now through a list of things without trying to comment on every piece of evidence as to what Ghislaine, Maxwell, or somebody else said about. But I wanted to point that out because if anybody is relying on her testimony as a way to say, hey, Donald Trump is not guilty of anything, and according to her, nobody's guilty of anything because she never saw anything, which is a nonsense. We have witness testimony. There are emails. There are messages that they got out of the garbage in Palm Beach. She knew, okay? She knew exactly what was going on and facilitated it. And the idea that Todd Blanche sat there and allowed her to spew this drivel is just one more indication of why aren't they releasing the files? Why aren't they releasing the evidence? Why go through all of this if he's not guilty? Why would you do this? It's doesn't make any sense to have her testify. And there's a pile of lies, and you can prove it. I mean, if I can prove it, anybody can prove it, okay? You could go through what we know today and know what she said was just lies. Of course, she's a perjurer, right? She has been convicted of perjury in the past. So Trump's people want you to believe her, okay? They want you to think she never saw Donald Trump. She never saw anybody do anything ever wrong. And listen, I'm not saying that he has. I don't know. I mean, I know he's done other things. I know he raped, according to the judge, E. Jean Carroll. I know that. I know that at least 25 or 26 women have accused him of sexual assault. I know that. I know that he chortled about grabbing women's pussies. So all of that I know. I don't know what he did in reference to Epstein. But all my question is, and it should be the question that we keep asking and putting out there, is if he did nothing, why are they doing this? If Donald Trump didn't participate in anything untoward with little girls, with Epstein, why are they hiding this evidence? Why are they doing this? That's really the question. It has no answer. It's not a hoax. And anyway, oh God, here I am. I'm going to make this longer than I thought. So that's the question we need to keep putting out there. And what also has to happen, I have no idea. I know that they've gotten, Ro Khanna got some commitment from the Epstein estate. They still have some documents, and within those documents should be photographs, unfortunately, of little girls. According to what they said, the estate asked a judge in the trial when Jane Doe sued J.P. Morgan for facilitating Epstein. In that trial, the Epstein estate said, we have photographs, but we don't know how to handle them of children. Okay? So let me get back to my list. So I'm just going to read them. Telephone message slips with names and phone numbers of girls found in trash pulls corroborating victim testimonies. A massage table later used as evidence in Ghislaine Maxwell's 2021 trial. From 2019 searches in New York and the U.S. Virgin Islands, they found dozens of recording devices, 40 computers, 26 storage drives, over 70 CDs, and 6 recording devices containing over 300 gigabytes of data. A CD labeled labeled Girl Pics Nude Book 4, and a folder titled LSJ Logbook. And they said that was likely referring to Little St. James, the island. Okay. They found several massage tables, numerous photo albums, including one labeled Photo Album of Girl and Epstein, a bag containing a set of copper handcuffs and a whip, thousands of nude and semi-nude photographs of young females, including at least one minor, found in binders of CDs during the 2019 search of Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Bank records from Colonial Bank showing accounts held by Jeffrey E. Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'm assuming, I could be wrong, that means, you know how you have two account can have two people on it, and Ghislaine Maxwell and Alfredo Rodriguez household account. That, you know, is to show the money involvement between Ghislaine and Epstein. There is also 3 discs containing court-authorized intercepts of a phone number previously belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell. We know Epstein's Black Book of Contacts, and there was also a redacted list of masseuses. There were the flight logs. The grand jury testimony and transcripts from the 2006 Palm Beach grand jury investigation released in July of 2024, containing nearly 200 pages of testimony from victims and detectives. Now, the detectives on this case were, what my understanding, were magnificent. The problem was not with the Palm Beach Police Department. It was the prosecutor's office. I'm sorry. So it contained nearly 200 pages of testimony from victims and detectives. These detailed Epstein's sexual assault of teenage girls as young as 14 at the Palm Beach mansion, including payments for massages and recruitment of additional girls. Testimony from Palm Beach Police Detective Joe Ricare, who was supposedly really dedicated to this. Unfortunately, he is gone. But there are some heroes in this, and he's one of them, who described a 2005 investigation triggered by a report of a 14-year-old girl molested at Epstein's mansion, with corroborating statements from multiple victims and witnesses. Unreleased materials. It says the DOJ holds additional records, including financial records, international travel logs, boat trip logs to Little St. James, and further inventory from searches of Epstein's property. And that hasn't been released because of the DOJ's memo that said further disclosure is not warranted. This DOJ, Bondi DOJ. So now The DOJ has stated a large portion of the records included photographs of victims and child pornography, which are restricted from public release to protect victims' identities. So, that, yes, there are obviously laws about showing that. So that's not something that we should ask to see, but we should hope that our elected representatives behind closed doors can see that evidence, okay? There should be no reason they can't. And, and the Epstein estate has other evidence. Exactly what it is, I don't know. I don't know. We may know soon because it's been Congressman Khanna has said that they are going to give him the files. But let's be really clear about this, folks. There is so much. And these girls who are now women, some of whom are no longer alive, deserve better than anything they have gotten to date. We know just by the settlement alone, because there is a settlement fund set up by the Epstein estate with millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in it, that 200 victims have come forward and received, what's the word? Obviously, they receive money, but it doesn't do much good, does it, when you're so damaged? But they receive settlements. But that number is really low, the 200. There's so many other victims out there. And I've talked about this before. He had to have sex 3 times a day. And he liked newness. That was the one thing I think Ghislaine Maxwell actually said that might have some truth to it. But do not let them distract you. Don't believe that there's this list someplace. That's almost irrelevant. There is so much out there. And there are people who need to come forward who know what happened. And there are also people that need to be brought to in front of the Congress. Sarah Kellen, who was his assistant, his being Epstein's assistant. Leslie Groff, who was also Epstein's assistant. These 2 women should be brought to testify about what they know. The other person that should be brought and her husband are the Rubins, Eva Rubin and Glenn Rubin. Eva, however you say her name, was Jeffrey's girlfriend at a point. And there's testimony from her chef, they're very wealthy, her chef and his wife, that they witnessed a young girl break down in front of them in Eva Rubin's kitchen. So there are people out there, folks, and they all should be called to testify. And in my estimation, Comey should be, not the idiot father, but Margaret Comey should be brought in to testify too. There is so much here. Don't let them tell you there's not. Evidence is evidence is evidence. Okay? And Ghislaine Maxwell is nothing but a liar. And anybody who believes her is nothing but a fool.